have that already. So I'll start from the bust points on the side like this, and I'm going to measure the calculated 6.25. so this is it, my 6.25, and then I'll come back here. I'm going to measure, put my tape. So make sure you do that accurately, because this is the moment of truth. If you are done sewing and it does not fit, then you have not done anything. So I have already marked the points right now on the lining, and what I did here, I'm going to repeat also on the fabric. So I don't believe in sewing off after making my dress. I'll say I added 2 inches, I will take off 2 inches, I added 1.5. I don't believe in that, because sometimes fabric expands and fabric contracts. So due to contraction and expansion of fabric, you might take off what you added on your paper, and at the end of the day, either it's too much or too less. Okay, so I'm done with that. Next we want to do now is to fit the waist. So in fitting the waist, this is the under bust. I'm going to place my tape on the under bust at exactly the figure I measured. So I have 15 inches for my under bust, and my waist is at 17. So I'll just make a little mark at that 17, and I'll trace that mark to the end for my waist fitting issues. So from the under bust 15, I have 2 inches for my waist. I'm going to trace it at that point. So I'm going to take my waist measurement now. The waist measurement I'm working with is 40. So I'm going to divide 40 by 2, that is 20. So I need 20 from here to here. So I'm going to measure, because it's a flay. Remember we started flaying at this point. So I'm going to spread out my fabric now on this line, which is the waistline. I'll measure, I have 8.5. I'll measure, I have 16.5. I'll spread it, I'll measure, and I have 25. Remember, we are working with 20. So it means I'm going to take 20. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Divide by 2 is 2.5. So we are going to take off from one side of the waist 2.5. I will mark 2.5. And from that point, you might decide to measure again your 20 to be sure. Okay, so from there I have 6, and from here I have 14.5, and from here I have 14.5 there. So from that 14.5, I'll now measure my 20. So I'll now make my mark of 20. So once I'm done, I'm going to come in with my pattern ruler, the same way we drafted, to fit my dress. Okay, so we are doing this for a perfect fit actually, because sometimes most people finish making their garment, they don't have a perfect fit to it. So you can see my mark at that point, and then I'll come over here. I'm going to mark at that point. So coming to the hem, the hem is no issue to us, because your hem, you can decide to go this way. You might even decide to mark maybe 1.5, or you can mark the 2 inches which we added. Okay, on the side on our pattern we added 2 inches, so I'll simply mark 2 inches there and place my pattern ruler from there. You can see how I play. This is a flay, that is why I'm placing my pattern ruler in this manner, so it flays out, as you can see there. So I'll come over here, I'll also add 2 inches to it, and I'm going to also flay out. Can you see that? So that is how you are going to fit your front for fabric and lining. So I'm done with the lining. You can see I did this on the front piece. But when I'm working at the back piece now, I'm going to do a different thing. I'm turning to the back. Whenever you are fitting your back bodies, that is the back part of your bodies, this is how I love to do that. I do this at the back. For the front, I do it at the front. So now I'm going to take my fitting issues on the bust area. So I'm working with bust 43. Divide by 2 is 21.5. Divide by 4 is 10.75. This is 21. Okay, let me do this. This is 43. 43. Divide by 2 is 21.5. Divide by 2 will give us 10.75. You can see that. So I'll place my tape on the chest line and I'll measure 10.75. This is 10.75, but because we have a zip, I'll add 1 inch to it. That is 11.75. Can you see? So I make a mark. So on the waistline, of course, automatically the waist is the part we have curving in. So I'll just place my tape at the waist. We need 40 divided by 10 plus 1 inch for the zip allowance. Okay, so I'll come to the hem and mark the 2 inches we added. Okay, so if you add the 2 inches you added, I'm going to do this. I'll place my pattern ruler the way we drafted, and I'll also place the pattern ruler to flare out. Okay, this time we are making it to flare out, not to curve into the hip. So that is it. So this is how to fit your dress. So I'm going to practically repeat this for all of them, then I'll be back to show you how to sew it together. Alright people, so now you can see we are done marking and we want to fit right now. So this is the front piece. Remember we marked on the front piece. So I'm going to come in with the back piece that matches like this. Remember, this is the front for the back. That is the right side to right side. I'm going to match it up. So I'll push in my pin on the upper part and match it up with this. So I will just quickly hold them down like this, making sure I have them match up accordingly. So what you have on the back has to match with the chalk line for the front. So that is the essence of, that is why we have to mark the way we marked. So I'll quickly go back to the machine. Okay, I'm going to lay the other side of the back as well, and I'll be going to my machine to sew. So I'm going to sew following the chalk line, okay, till I get to the end of it. I'll repeat the same thing on this other side. I'll come in with this, lay chalk line to chalk line. I'm doing that. I've already fitted my dress, so I'll quickly do that, give it a good press, then we'll come back to sew the neckline. So I'm done sewing the sides and I've given it a good press. You can see I have to press it down on both sides. I also did that for my lining. I pressed them down. You can see I open up the seams and I pressed. So it's time for us to start sewing the neckline. We are going to sew the neckline for the front. Can you see? This is the front. We are sewing only this neckline. We are putting it together. Remember, we are placing our lace, okay? We are placing the lace on top of it. So you need to prepare the neckline to be able to place your lace accordingly. So I match up my neckline center front to center front. I'll secure with my pin. Okay, so I'm sewing in a way I can sew on top of my pin. So once I secure like this, I'll just go into my sewing machine and I'll sew right on top of my pins. Okay, so I'm going to push in my pin into the seam line, That means we are matching up seam line to seam line. I'll also match up seam line to seam line. So I'll quickly go over to the machine now. I'm going to hold my pins on the neckline. You can see if you cut accordingly, everything matches up for you. So I'm going to sew on top at 0.5. So I'll quickly do that. Then I'll be back. I will turn it around, give it a good press. Then we'll be back for the next stage. Okay.